Welcome to this explainer. If you're tuning in today, there's a good chance you're a parent, a caregiver, or an educator. And you might be feeling that familiar tight knot of anxiety watching a kiddo you love really struggle with learning. First things first, take a deep breath. It is completely normal to feel overwhelmed or worried when something just seems a little off with your child's development, especially when it comes to early reading and speaking. So today, we're going to walk through a comprehensive early warning signs checklist for dyslexia, mapped out from the toddler years all the way through school age. My goal here? To give you some real clarity, take away all that stressful guesswork, and absolutely empower you with knowledge. Okay, let's just dive right into this with a number that totally changes the conversation. 1 in 5. Literally 1 in 5 students shows signs of dyslexia. If you've been sitting up late at night wondering if you're just overthinking things, I really want you to look at this number and realize your child is absolutely not alone. Dyslexia is incredibly common. It's simply a specific learning difference that affects how the brain processes language. And listen to me, it has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence. Now, what's truly profoundly hopeful here is that massive 90% slice you see. Research actually shows us that 90% of at-risk readers catch up when the right support and interventions start early. I want that stat to replace your fear with some serious, actionable optimism. The brain is just incredibly plastic, right? Especially in early childhood. So catching these signs doesn't mean a life of academic failure. No way. It means you are grabbing the exact key needed to unlock their specific path to success. But we do have to look at the other side of the coin. So here's a gentle but very serious warning. 74% of struggling third-grade readers are still behind in ninth grade if they don't get specialized intervention. That whole wait-and-see approach, it simply doesn't work for dyslexia. And honestly, this is exactly why we're going through this early warning signs checklist today. Knowing what to look for is your absolute best defense against your child falling into that 74%. So here's our chronological roadmap for the explainer today. First, we'll look at toddlerhood, the first clues. Then we'll move into school age, reading reality. Third, writing and speaking struggles. And finally, beyond reading, everyday signals. Let's get to it. Section 1. Toddlerhood, the first clues. Before a child is ever even asked to read, their brain is busy laying the foundation for language. And we all think it's just adorable when a 2-year-old says biscotti instead of spaghetti, or lawn lower instead of lawnmower. It's standard baby talk. But what happens when that baby talk is, really persistent? If your little one is constantly mispronouncing familiar words or struggling to recall the right word when speaking, that's actually a red flag. They might be slow to add new vocabulary, or they might struggle to retell a simple story in the right sequence. It's not just about them being cute anymore. It's about how their brain is categorizing and retrieving sounds. And those signs aren't just verbal. Let's look at some pre-reading and physical signs. A really classic hallmark is having a hard time learning nursery rhymes or failing to recognize rhyming patterns, like cat, bat, rat. They might even seem completely unable to recognize the letters in their own name. But physical clues matter too. A history of chronic ear infections can actually impact auditory processing. You might also notice delayed fine motor skills. Maybe they struggle for an unusually long time to learn how to tie their shoes, or they have a tough time establishing a dominant hand, like they might seem ambidextrous or switch hands back and forth frequently. Section 2. School age, reading reality. As school gets going, the reading demands make those hidden struggles pretty undeniable. Imagine a page in a book, right? There's a cute little illustration of a dog, and the text right below it says puppy. The child looks at the word but reads aloud, dog. Why? Because they're reading well below their expected level and simply can't sound out that unfamiliar word. Their reading errors show absolutely no connection to the actual sounds of the letters on the page. They're making wild guesses based on context and pictures rather than phonetics. Actually, they might not even understand that words come apart into individual sounds. Has this ever happened in your house? It's time for reading practice, and suddenly your kid desperately needs a glass of water, has a phantom stomachache, or literally disappears under the dining room table. This right here bridges the gap between mechanical reading issues and emotional avoidance behaviors. They complain about how hard reading is because for their brain it is absolutely exhausting. They aren't trying to be difficult, I promise. They're just trying to escape something that makes them feel incapable. Let's break down those specific reading behaviors a bit more. You'll probably notice they avoid reading out loud at all costs. And when they do read, it's incredibly slow, choppy, and laborious. They might struggle to sound out super simple words like cat or map. Or, get this, they can read a word perfectly on one line and act like they've never seen it before on the very next line. They also often suffer from hominin confusion. Now, here's a really vital piece of the puzzle. Despite all this, they often still deeply, genuinely enjoy being read to. The comprehension is totally there. It's the decoding that's the barrier. Also, definitely check your family tree. A history of reading problems in parents, siblings, or the extended family is a massive indicator. Section 3. Writing and Speaking Struggles. As the school years progress, the signs extend way beyond just reading a book. Dyslexic kids often spell phonetically and have notoriously messy handwriting, but you really need to look closely at how they misspell. We see letter reversals, like famously confusing D and B. We see word reversals, writing tip instead of pit. Inversions, flipping an M to a W or a U to an N. Transpositions, mixing up the middle letters like felt and left. And substitutions, writing house instead of home. Also, pay attention to their hands. An awkward, really tight pencil grip, like wrapping their thumb completely over a closed fist, is a major clue that they're struggling with the basic mechanics of writing. And speaking can be equally taxing. Have you ever heard a child confidently talk about a tornado erupting lava? They're confusing words that just sound alike. Tornado for volcano, or maybe lotion for ocean. They might have a really hard time finding the exact right words to answer questions, relying heavily on vague language. You'll hear a lot of stuff, thingy, or you know what I mean, simply because they can't retrieve the specific noun. They'll pause, hesitate, use a ton of ums, and just need an unusually long time to process what they hear and formulate a response. Section 4. Beyond Reading. Everyday Signals. Picture a super smart, capable kid getting endlessly frustrated trying to read a normal analog clock with hands, or constantly getting their left and right confused. Maybe they mix up before and after, or yesterday and tomorrow. And look at their physical space. Is their backpack a literal black hole? Is their bedroom constantly disorganized? Do they have immense trouble remembering dates, names, phone numbers, or random lists? Listen, these aren't signs of laziness. They are direct reflections of how a dyslexic brain handles sequencing, directionality, and working memory. These everyday struggles really start to bleed into their broader learning and thinking, too. You might see a child who totally gets math conceptually, but completely fails at remembering rote math facts, like the multiplication tables. They might rely heavily on memorizing things without truly understanding them, just to survive the school day. They could have extreme difficulty learning a foreign language. They also might struggle to grasp jokes or idioms. Like, if you say something is a piece of cake, they might take it very literally. And tragically, all of this can lead to a quiet, hidden, low self-esteem. They know they're working twice as hard as their peers for half the results, and they start to internalize that struggle. We've covered a lot of ground today, from toddler baby talk all the way to teenage messy backpacks. If you're going through this explainer and checking off box after box in your head, I want to leave you with this highly empathetic truth. You absolutely do not have to figure it out alone. Reaching out to a specialist, a teacher, or a pediatrician to just talk about what you're seeing is the essential first step. Remember that 90% catch-up rate we talked about at the very beginning? Identifying these signs today is exactly how you get there. So, I want to turn it over to you. Armed with this checklist, what signs will you look for today? Notice how they tie their shoes. Listen to how they tell a story. Watch how they hold their pencil. You are their absolute best advocate, and your observation is the key to unlocking their potential. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.